What is happening there, JGame Dude here, and I just want to ask the whole company of Xbox one very simple question. What on earth are you guys doing? So, it's probably no surprise to anyone who watched opening night live at the beginning of Gamescom. And if you haven't seen it, I do highly recommend it. But effectively, what was announced at the end of the show was not just a release date for the previously Xbox exclusive Indiana Jones game, but rather the fact that the game is going to arrive on PS5 months after launch. So the thing is that Indiana Jones was originally poised to be a Xbox exclusive title because it's being made by Machine Games, and Machine Games is currently under Bethesda, which Microsoft had purchased and is now completely under their umbrella. So Machine Games, as a first-party development studio, is making an Indiana Jones game that previously made Wolfenstein games, a few of which were good and a couple of which were absolutely god-awful. That being said, however, I could see Indiana Jones being a fairly decent title. However, you'd think that, Xbox would probably want to have that as an exclusive, right? It might not necessarily be the case, because while it is launching on Xbox and PC in December 9th, I want to say was the date that was announced. I think it should be in here. So anyway, I think it was December 9th that was announced to be the date. But also it did say that it was coming to PS5. Now, among other things, in addition to not just dropping the actual idea of Indiana Jones coming to PS5, Phil Spenser also said that he wanted Xbox will see more change after Indiana Jones on PS5, says Phil Spenser. Now, it says here, as Microsoft commits to its multi-platform strategy, keeping in mind that Xbox is under the Microsoft umbrella, because there has been this whole conversation about how Microsoft is slowly creeping into the Xbox space because Xbox has now spent so much money buying Activision Blizzard that Microsoft can't consider Xbox just a small element of, or a small pet project under the Microsoft umbrella, letting them do whatever they want. No, the fact of the matter is that now they're considered big enough to where Microsoft actually needs to take control of what's going on here. So the whole Microsoftification of Xbox, if you will. Now, that being said, Xbox Phil Spenser boss has discussed the decision to put Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on PS5, saying that, of course, they're still very much a business and they're still wanting to make more money. But the fact of the matter is that he says that Xbox will see more change, but never elaborated on the concept. And this is one of the biggest problems that Xbox has had with Phil Spenser. He says a lot of things that are quite vague, but never truly explains or elaborates beyond a certain point. Again, like I said, he just says the words more change and doesn't elaborate further, therefore leading Xbox fans to not really trust or believe him all that much, as he has burnt a lot of goodwill among the Xbox audience, especially with the changes that were made to Game Pass, among other things. So it really does kind of make me wonder what on earth Xbox is doing, how they've been sort of burning out on goodwill with the Xbox audience, especially during the last year or so, and with this whole sort of doomsday mentality that I feel like has kind of been prevalent among not necessarily Xbox gamers, but among the Xbox corporate body as a whole, it feels like, to the fact that Jason Schreier did actually write an article about this whole confusing mess of what is going on, and that Phil needs to be more upfront and to talk about what is going on. So I do highly recommend reading or looking at Jason Schreier's article on Bloomberg. If you haven't already subscribed to Bloomberg, of course, highly recommend it. Again, he does some excellent writing. People might not like Jason Schreier as a person, however, his very much top-notch when it comes to the sort of investigative journalism, but also being able to put things in a far more adequate sense or way. Now, originally my video wasn't even going to be about the fact that Indiana Jones is coming to PS5, or the fact that, there's going to be more changes going on in the Xbox space, and who knows if that's actually going to be relating to other franchises coming in to the PS5, because that's kind of what people are speculating more and more as time goes on. And sure, there's going to be an exclusivity to Xbox for Indiana Jones, but only for a short period of time, a matter of a few months, if anything else. So that's kind of really, I guess, concerning, because why would you want to buy an Xbox box if you're expecting that games are only going to be, coming to PlayStation? Because after their initial trial of 4 games coming to PlayStation, because Sea of Thieves was so bloody successful on PlayStation, in fact, I'm pretty sure most of the games that was put on PS5 actually outsold the Xbox variants by a decent chunk, to the point where because Sea of Thieves was so successful on PS5, they decided to bring Indiana Jones over. That being said, I'm now going to move on to pretty much the main reason why I was going to make this video, as I continue to question what on earth Xbox is doing. Avowed runs at 30 FPS on Xbox Series S and X, Obsidian confirms. Sure, the fact that, there was this whole debacle with Baldur's Gate 3, where Sven Vink, the CEO of Larian Studios, who are the developers of Baldur's Gate 3, did say, hey, we don't want to bring it to Xbox because Xbox wanted complete parity across both platforms. But the thing is that Larian was actually unhappy with the performance that the Xbox Series S was doing, that they were not willing to bring a multi-award winning Game of the Year contender, and therefore PS5 and PC managed to enjoy that game very much for a lengthy period of time before the game did ultimately come to Xbox Series S and X. However, Xbox Series S was completely neutered by the fact that you could not play split screen multiplayer on the S variant of the Xbox series of consoles, whereas on X you could. So they pretty much, Xbox allowed their own rules to be broken in order to allow Baldur's Gate 3 on the Xbox platform, because Larian was not happy with the overall performance of the game if 2 people were playing on the same console on the same couch. So with that being said, however, Avowed is going to run at a baseline of 30 FPS on the Xbox Series S and X. Developer Obsidian has confirmed, and what their reasoning was that it's a first-person single-player game, so you don't necessarily need to have 60 frames. And that's where a lot of people are going to go up in arms about, because this very similar argument happened with Starfield, but later on they did patch 60 FPS in later on. And so if Avowed is eventually going to get patched for a 60 FPS patch, like, what is the point in releasing it early? Why not delay it further so that it becomes available with the 60 FPS patch? Because I guess they're trying to still very much lead the way that, it's Xbox Series S and X need to run similarly. So they're trying to add more visual flair rather than letting it run better. But as a player, it running at a higher frame rate is actually more important than it looking beautiful, to be completely honest, because it feels so much better to play ultimately. And you can probably talk about how it's, such a great thing to want to focus on visual fidelity at the cost of performance, sure. But if it comes to, it only specifies 30 FPS on Xbox consoles, but not on PC. So if it runs 60 FPS on PC, but 30 FPS on Xbox consoles, it kind of makes me scratch my head and think, why is a first-party developed game for the Xbox not able to run an Xbox game at an intended performance that is now expected on a baseline level? across the board, whether it be on PlayStation or PC at this point. We kind of expect games to kind of run at 60 FPS, especially if they're first party titles that are incredibly high quality and likely probably going to be sold at $70 if it isn't, or which obviously it is going to be available on Game Pass as well. Let us not forget that. But people are also now commenting on the fact, hey, when is this game coming to PS5? Probably a matter of time. Who knows, because it's probably not going to sell that well on Xbox, among other things. So there's a lot going on here and a lot that I could talk about, and I feel like I'm better off leaving this all up into the air as I let everyone kind of speculate across the board as to what on earth is going on. And I mean, like, I could go into some of these quotes from, I think he's the art director at Obsidian. There we go. Yeah, they kind of try to explain what the trade-offs are. So like, say for example, we're targeting 30 FPS bare minimum. I feel like he said bare minimum just because he knows it's going to probably be running at 60 on PC, or potentially it might also be 30 on PC. Who knows? Again, it's not openly known. The confirmation has only been for Xbox. Yeah, we are targeting 30 FPS bare minimum. That's the expectation. It's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames, and that allows us to get a lot juicier with VFX and lighting and all this other stuff. That's a trade-off we opted to make relatively early, and we're really happy with that. The game's running pretty smooth for how visually dense it is, and that was always our goal. But Obsidian is figuring out the nitty-gritty of performance. It's one of the last things you do, Hansen said. And the thing is that when people play 60 FPS, it's actually a notable difference from 30 FPS, and people who are used to playing 60 are going to notice that difference, whether or not it's intended or not. Why they couldn't do 40 FPS with VRR, which is a variable refresh rate, so it at least runs slightly higher than 30 FPS, but not quite 60, is questionable in and of itself. But then if, say, for example, this game were to be ported to PS5, it would likely be able to run 60 FPS out of the box. So, you know, there's that element of it as well. And of course, it's going to be an absolute shame when, you know, people realize, hey, that performance on PS5 is generally better than Xbox for Xbox developed games within first party, from a first party perspective. But after watching Digital Foundry's breakdown, it seems to intentionally be kneecapped to make it seem equivalent on both PlayStation and Xbox consoles, but that's something that you're better off making your own conclusion about when you watch Digital Foundry's breakdowns of games like Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and possibly Grounded. I think they might have done all 4 games, but yeah. So yeah, it's a cool looking game. I can't imagine it selling particularly well on Xbox. Will it come to PS5? Probably a matter of time before we know it. And of course, we also know games like Doom, The Dark Ages are coming to PS5, and of course the recently announced Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, when they released the release date, of course, that I talked about earlier on this same video. So I've talked about a lot. I've talked fairly quick. I have unpacked a lot, and now it's really just a case of like, some of it is my opinion, some of it of course is just actual facts that have been kind of talked about. So it's really just a matter of, what do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comments below, because there's a lot to unpack, and I feel like I could see a lot of paragraphs and paragraphs of comments in the comment section. But of course, that is if people actually watch this video. Of course, I know, you know, my viewership has gone down very much significantly with newer videos lately, so hopefully, you know, I'll be able to build that back up at some point, as long as I keep uploading. So let me know what you guys think about all of that in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 300 subs by the end of the year. I do have a Patreon link in the description below, so if you feel like tossing a few bucks my way, you can absolutely do that through that link. And with all of that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.